So it's been nearly a month of me using the Flip 3. So yeah, let's get into it and let's find out the pros and cons and see what I think. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michael's Tech Talk, and yeah, let's get into it. So first off, I think we'll all agree that the Flip 3 is pretty awesome looking. I got it in what I think is the best colour, which is black. To say the very least, it's eye-catching, if nothing else. I mean, that matte black finish with the shiny bit at the top. Don't know about you guys, but I got some serious Pixel 2 vibes from this. What do you think? But no, I really liked it. I think it's sleek, it's light, and yeah, look, I can actually close it with one hand. Yo, what's up? Hung up on you. Oh man, back to the 90s, here we go. But yeah, no, definitely black I think is the best colour in this, so yeah, come fight me. First impressions, when the phone is open, I mean it's a slim form factor of a phone. It's pretty nifty looking, and when you look at it, it's pretty, it's a big phone. It's got a big display. It's got everything that a smartphone should have these days. And if you were to hand this to a stranger, I'm pretty sure a stranger would look at this phone and sort of think, yeah, there's maybe nothing overly special about that, until you fold it over. For that alone, I think it's really, really cool. I mean, the refinements on the hinge, especially for this, I must say, is very, very good compared to the previous generations of this phone. It's definitely not as I've been using it, it's definitely just not as sticky. When I first got it, I thought it was very, very stiff to open and things like that, and I could not have closed this with one finger before. I think it's loosened up nicely, but not to the I wouldn't advise that you do that, by the way, but it's not flopping around. You've got a good rigid hinge there, but at the same time it's sort of loosened up and it's nearly usable now, in terms of folding it over with one finger. I know a lot of people have had problems trying to do that, and to be quite honest, especially if you're not using a case, I would advise you not to try that, because yeah, it gets a bit slippy and it could fall out your hand, and then we don't want that, because that would be bad. So let's just recap the specs. We've got a 6.7 inch foldable AMOLED display. Samsung have definitely upped their game with their foldable screen technology, so yeah, it's pretty awesome. 120 Hz refresh rate and up to 1200 nits of peak brightness, which makes this phone pretty good if you're using it outside in the daylight. So the screen can get pretty bright, which is, yeah, it's pretty awesome, considering it's up there with a lot of the flagship phones, which have, really, really good brightness and, that sort of refresh rate. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's got the Snapdragon 888 CPU, so it's quick, it's snappy, it's responsive, it's up there. It's a good processor. 8GB of RAM, again, not too bad. Not as high as, say, the S21 Ultra or the S21 line for that matter, or even the Note 20, but it's good enough. And you get 128 gig and 256 gig storage options, so that's what you get in this phone. So yeah, that's pretty the norm. It does have wireless charging, as well as your standard fast charging through USB-C, which is all pretty normal, and it is IPX8 water resistant. So what Samsung have done with this is they have coated the components inside and the hinge as well with this special sealant, which seals off the components to water. The X basically means that it's only water resistant, it isn't resistant to dust and that sort of stuff. So yeah, you might need to avoid the beach, and if you work in a dirty environment, yeah, you might just want to avoid it, otherwise you're going to get a lot of and nobody wants that. Cameras, we have a 12 megapixel wide lens, and we have a 12 megapixel ultra wide lens on the main cameras on the phone, which is pretty good. Pictures are good. They're not up there with the S21 Ultra or the Note 20, for example, but it's good enough. They are good enough, and they can shoot video up to 60 frames per second on 4K, which is also pretty decent. So then the front facing camera then as well, it's a 10 megapixel and it can shoot up to 4K at 30 frames per second. So again, not too shabby. It's sort of on par with today's phones. Battery is a 3300 milliamp battery. It's maybe a bit on the low side compared to some of the other phones, but I mean, when you look at how thin this device is, let's face it, if you're going to split 2 battery cells across this phone, and with how thin it is, you're probably not going to get much bigger in it. So yeah, I mean, you can't really have the thinness, and you can't have the thinness of the device and then have a big massive battery either, so there has to be a bit of compromise there, unfortunately. And with this, it is the battery, so something to consider. So let's get into the features. The hinge, like I said, the hinge is solid and smooth. It definitely is an improvement on the previous generations of this phone. Even when you put the phone like this and you can use it as a kind of tripod, the hinge is really, really good. The phone's not going anywhere, which is pretty awesome, and the balance is pretty good on it too. Even if you sort of bend it back, it's not gonna rock back or anything like that, which is pretty good. The cover display is noticeably better than the previous generation of this phone. So as you can see, I'm very minimalistic. I haven't put any special widgets or things or anything like that there on this, so I'm very much a basic Bob. But it's pretty cool. You can sort of flick through, whatever widgets you have set up on your home screen, for example, you can flick through these. So there's the likes of my music widget and alarms and voice recorders. You can customize all sorts of things. You can add widgets on, you can change the clock faces and all that sort of stuff, which is really, really cool. It's also really good for your notifications as well. So if you're sort of sitting in your day-to-day and the phone's there, you can get your notifications up on that little display and you can just sort of take a peek and job done. So it's really, really good. What I really like about this phone as well is with the cover display, double tap the home button, it'll open up as a viewfinder, and you can take some pretty awesome selfies or videos with the rear cameras when it's folded over like this, which is pretty awesome. It's a sort of similar feature to what comes on the Fold, where you can use the front display as a viewfinder. Obviously on the Fold it's a much bigger real estate, but this here is pretty awesome. So we just take some photos. It's pretty good, and then you can obviously then flick across from photo to video, and you can flick from between your lenses and things like that there as well, which is a pretty awesome little feature to be able to do that all from the cover screen. That's pretty awesome. What's up, guys? This is the 4K at 60 frames per second video on the Flip 3. So yeah, let me know what you think it's like. Let's get into some pros and cons, and as always, we'll start with the pros. First off, the design. I must say, I love the design of this. I love how slim it is. I love how well it flips over. I love the viewfinding features for the camera, for the rear. I just love it as a package. I think it's great, and I just love the color of it. That matte frosted that matte frosted back glass. That was a real struggle. I just love the display, and I just love the color of it and the way it looks. So let's go on to the next pro, the display. So the display is a Samsung AMOLED foldable panel. So you have the sharpness and the screen quality of a flagship phone, and you can fold it in half, which is phenomenal. So that to me is great, that this screen is so sharp and so bright considering it can be folded in half. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So the next big pro for me, and I think this is the reason why I keep picking this phone back up, there's no compromise with this phone. So yes, this is a foldable phone and you can fold this phone in half, and yeah, you can do all that, but when you open this phone up, and you use this phone works as a normal smartphone in every way. There's no compromise with this phone. This phone doesn't do anything that any other phone won't do. So literally, you're not having to alter any apps. There's nothing that you need to change or have to worry about not working properly or not being optimized properly. Everything just works as it should do. And that's great, because literally, who doesn't love something that you can just make smaller and put it in your pocket? Let's get on to some cons, and there are a few. First off, battery life. Now, as I said before, with this design, when you have a package like this that's so slim and so compact, you are going to get a trade-off, and for this phone, it is the battery. 3300 milliamp hours even for the quality of display that's in this phone, it's just not enough. Personally, for me, I can get up to sort of maybe between 4 and 5 hours of screen on time, which is something I've really been testing and really trying to push with this. And that's really the sort of mark I've been getting with it. So it could be better. It is what it is. For if you to get something this small, you're going to have a trade-off, and unfortunately, it is the battery. Like all phones now, there's no expandable storage. There's no card reader slots or anything like that. So what you have is what you get. So make sure you pick your storage option right. You've got 128 or 256 gig. So when you're picking it, make sure you pick the right one. So the fingerprint reader is pretty great. I actually thought it would be a bit of a pain the way the buttons are located. When the phone's open, the buttons are quite high up on the phone. But when I open it up, the fingerprint reader is pretty good, and I get it with my thumb nearly every time. But what I do find is the front camera for the face unlock, for me, has been pretty poor, and I just can't really use it. So when I open the phone and it's trying to scan my face, I actually wait that long. I just have to use the fingerprint. So for me, facial recognition on this phone is pretty poor, and if I'm being truthfully honest, with the features of this phone and being able to use your rear cameras for taking selfies, I don't understand why there's a camera on the inside. But they should have just got rid of it and just had a completely full display. Just my opinion. And then on to the last con, which is quite a big one. I do have concerns about how well this device is going to wear. Obviously, Samsung have stated that you can get quite a lot of open and close with this phone. I'm just concerned as to how well this phone's going to look in, say, a year's time. It is quite well documented about the first generation flips. A lot of people have tweeted out pictures of their glass, starting to break at the crease and things like that there. So that does concern me. And while it's great to have water resistance on this phone, dust resistance is really the big thing with this phone, especially with the hinge, because what you're doing with this phone is you're limiting this phone to a lot of people that can't use it. And what I mean by that is, for example, my family, well, not myself obviously, I've relatively clean hands, but my family, I come from a family full of mechanics, and for car mechanics especially, you're constantly dealing with oil and dirt and dust, and metal filings is for one thing. So if you're constantly having a phone in and out of your pocket and you've got those little things in your pockets, those little things could destroy a phone like this. So you're instantly cutting out a user base that cannot use this phone. So any sort of job that you would class as a dirty job, say a mechanic or a joiner or a plumber or any of that sort of jobs where you have to be sort of careful with your phone, this phone could break very, very easily if you get a lot of dust or dirt in between that hinge, and then before you know it, you've destroyed the hinge in the phone. So that's a pretty big con. You're sort of limiting the people who can use it, which is a bit of a shame. But again, I think that's something that's maybe going to develop with time in later generations. But for now, that's a con for me. That's pretty much it. I hope you liked the video. If you did, smash that like button for me. Really appreciate it. It helps me out in the channel. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified on new videos dropping on the channel, hit that bell as well, and you'll be notified when new videos drop. And yeah, that just about wraps it up for this video, guys. And I will catch you in the next one.
Bye.